So my name is Kevin Toomey and I'm the principal of St. John's National School, which is a small school in Shannontown in County Clare. We have 64 pupils, three mainstream classroom teachers and one special class teacher, two mainstream SNAs, and as part of our autism class we have two additional SNAs also and six amazing boys in that class. Because we are a small school, I'm a teaching principal. I teach 5th and 6th class, and we have 15 pupils across that classroom. The school itself was opened in 1961, and it was opened to support, I suppose, the infrastructure and the development of Shannon being a new town. It's close to Shannon Airport, it's close to the industrial estate, which had lots of different businesses. Ripon Piano Factory was one of the first. And I suppose, the town has expanded significantly in the 80s and 90s. We were the first school to be built in the town, but now we're one of 6 national schools. There's also 2 second level schools, one of which is the first comprehensive school ever to be opened in Ireland. But of the 8 schools in Shannon, ours is the oldest and the smallest. I suppose this school has been a multicultural school since the day the doors opened, because obviously Shannon being an industrial and an airport town, a lot of families would have moved from abroad into Ireland. And there's people employed in Shannon from all across the world. And it also has long been a place of inclusion for all kinds of learners, regardless of their, need or ability. We have an autism class since 2019. And I suppose the idea of today is just to tell you a little bit about how integration and inclusion works in our school. It's by no means, a one-size-fits-all effort, but I suppose there's something to be got for every school from it. One of the first and main things that we do here, and has always been the case here, is that we celebrate difference. It's one thing that we do consistently as a school. I suppose we help the children to understand and deal with the fact that we are all different, and especially in our school, in our setting, it would be more unusual to find 2 children from a similar background than 2 children who are from the same background. Like, for example, when it's harvest, we celebrate harvest, we learn about harvest. When it's Easter, we celebrate Easter, we learn about Easter. When it's Eid, we celebrate with our Muslim friends and we learn all about that. Diwali, Chinese New Year, Ridvan, the list goes on all year round. You name it, we'll celebrate it and we learn about it. And I think the children get a lot from learning about one another. They nearly find crack in seeing what each household does differently to their own, We're careful all the time to watch how the conversation around different traditions and different cultures flows and develops. And there are times that you do need to interject to kind of steer the conversation in maybe a positive and an inquisitive way, because the natural instinct for children when somebody has something different in their life is to think that it's just weird, So it's important to, I suppose, as I said, steer it in a positive direction. For children who have different abilities, like, for example, we have some children in the school with autism, as I mentioned. We have some children with Down syndrome. We speak openly about how we are all different learners, not just the children who have autism or Down syndrome or any other kind of, learning disability or any difference of any nature. And we all learn differently, which is the most important thing. We're all here together as learners and we all learn differently and at different stages. Some children that we have in the school here started talking at 7 months and still haven't stopped. And then for our pre-verbal friends, they're just not there yet, but we can help them. Respect drives everything that we do in this school. Respect, and I suppose the necessity and the want to look out for one another drives every interaction in a school like ours, a multi-ability, multicultural school. So, like, as I said, just ingraining that, I suppose, recognition and celebration of difference, whatever the nature of the difference is. A very important one that we do, which I'll mention also, is we try and personalise terminology as best we can. This is something that's difficult because it's ever changing. The terminology around cultures, around faiths, around abilities and disabilities is constantly changing. So we bring it back to the person. Often a child in a school setting will use a flippant term to describe a group, a cohort, a faith base, a culture, a race, whatever it might be, incorrectly, not out of, hate or negativity or disregard, but just more so out of an innocent childhood ignorance. They don't know any better. They haven't been taught yet. And as opposed to scorning the child, I suppose, who has misused a term, we would direct the conversation to the person who the term was used for and ask them, how do they want to be addressed? Just for an example, a few weeks ago, we had a group here in the school who were celebrating a particular festival, Muslims. And one of the teachers said, or one of the children said to me, "Oh, teacher, what are the Islams doing?" It would have been very easy for me to say, no, that's not how you address that group of people. That's not the correct way to do it. They may find it, offensive that you've misused that term, so you must be careful. Instead of saying that, completely turned it around to our Muslim friends here in the classroom and said, "Oh, Abdul or Jihad or Gianna. So John is wondering about what you and your family are celebrating at the moment." And he used the term Islams. Is that right? Is that how you would, address you or your family or your friends? And they'd say, "No, Islam is our religion, but we are Muslims." And in that way, then, I haven't scorned the child or scolded the child, but I have directly asked that group of children how they like to be addressed. And it differs from group to group. And we think that's really important. Like, one thing that we want to drive here in the school is that no matter who you are, at what stage you joined us, where you come from, no matter what, you are at home here in the school, and that's something we really want to drive home with them all the time, regardless. The third thing, and it ties into what I just said, that we consistently do is we always refer to the school family. That way of working, I know, isn't applicable to every school. And there are schools that I have worked in previously who wouldn't necessarily use the term school family, which were also excellent schools and with happy staffs and happy pupils. But for us, the school family is really important. And the reason behind it is it gives the kids and the staff and the parents and the wider school community a real and a serious sense of togetherness, that we are all in this together. And that in turn drives what I mentioned much earlier in the podcast, which is the need to want to look out and look after one another. I suppose fourth is we encourage individuality. And for me personally, this one is key. Obviously, you don't want to drive the children into being different. You don't want them to encourage them being different for the sake of it. But if it happens organically, comment on it in a positive way. Children are so clever and so intelligent. And then in a lot of ways, they're young and they can be easily led and influenced by commentary. One thing that I've always held myself personally, an opinion I've always held myself personally, is that you cannot underestimate the esteem and the regard that the kids have for you as an adult in their life, be you a coach or a teacher or anyone at all. And I suppose how quickly and seriously they take on our thoughts, our opinions, and our feelings. Like, children are a product of their environment. They are. And for half of their waking day, school is their environment. And I don't think that can be underestimated. So I suppose, encourage that individuality. Let them know that you see them for who they are and you support them. Another really important one is empathy. And it's one of the empathy is actually really hard to teach. And what I have found and what I have learned from peers and colleagues is that the best way to teach it is to let the children see you showing empathy. And it's something we try to do daily. Let the kids see it, let the kids hear it, let them feel it, and encourage them to empathize with others. Sometimes you have to draw that empathy from them in order to kind of, implicitly teach it. Sixth, we make sure that there is something for everyone. If at any point during the day, any child feels isolated, you've gone wrong somewhere. And that takes a huge amount of time. And sometimes it isn't until you're doing an activity or it isn't until after the fact that you think, oh, that child really didn't participate in that lesson. And it might click with you why they didn't take part in that lesson. And that's something that's really easily rectified. And it comes down to just being really, really prepared and really taking into consideration the group of children that you have sitting in front of you and how they may feel about whatever particular lesson is being taught, whatever game is being played. I suppose, seventh, we grow the culture. A culture isn't something that happens in a school overnight at all. I'm in a really fortunate position that I actually inherited a school effectively with an already amazing and inspirational culture. And that's down to my predecessor, Mrs. Tina Noon, and her predecessor, Mrs. Ira Queely. They did an incredible job in building a culture of positivity and that family atmosphere that I've talked about so much. Now that I've been in this school for a number of years and I've lived it myself, I do think that I could recreate it elsewhere. But again, I know myself it wouldn't happen overnight. So if there are any leaders or teachers watching this saying that's something I want to grow in my school, it can be done, but it does not happen overnight. It takes a good long number of years before it's really embedded in the school culture. If it did happen overnight, it probably would be false, And I suppose, to summarize, everything that I've said so far really can be summed up in one word. It underpins everything that makes our school a positive community and a nice place of teaching and learning. And the one word is respect. Link back to what the GAA regularly say: give respect, get respect. I just think it's key, and as I said, it underpins everything that we do here day to day.